Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. This is provided by Online, and this specific webinar will cover course settings and course navigation. This is not a course building training. Rather, this webinar is designed to get you comfortable in your course navigation and course building environment by helping you understand the tools available to you while you're in that process. My name is Justine. I am an instructional designer with Online, and I am joined by a handful of other instructional designers to aid on this webinar, along with our videographer, Leroy, who will be recording this session. To get started, just make sure that you're logged into Canvas. If you have trouble with that, please contact the instructional designers. Otherwise, a quick overview of what you're seeing here is the Canvas dashboard. Covered in a previous webinar, we talked about the global navigation, which is provided at all times while you're in Canvas, and then the dashboard and recent activities list, which will change once you navigate out of the dashboard into a course proper. As a side note, please remember that some of the settings that you change in your course will be reflected in the course dashboard in small areas, such as the links to certain activities regarding the course proper. And we can set those as we go through the webinar. So right now I'm going to navigate inside of a course. You will be taken to 3 new areas. Again, your global navigation is on your left-hand side and it will remain there indefinitely. But now you'll be have access to the course navigation, which may look slightly different than this depending on when your course or sandbox was created. The center content area, which is located in the middle, this is where all Canvas activity is displayed for students, including assignments, page content, conversations, etc. This is the meat of the course. And then on the right-hand side are going to be some teacher-specific resources regarding how to view analytics for your course, set some settings, and look at some upcoming material that'll be needing your attention. Very briefly, to look at the top navigation bar, you have access to the breadcrumb trail. So this is the title of your course. And as you start navigating deeper into items, you'll see that your breadcrumb will increase depending on where you are in the class. And you can navigate in and out of certain areas of your course by clicking its breadcrumb. The course title and the course home are available at all times, and clicking either of those will take you to the top course site home. Your menu may or may not be expanded for your course navigation. All you need to do is click the hamburger menu, and this will pop in and out your course navigation. This is very similar to the global navigation compress and expand. And please note, with either of these, it will affect your view site-wide. So anywhere on Canvas, if you collapse this menu, it will be collapsed in your other courses. If you collapse this menu, it will be collapsed in your other courses. So just keep that in mind. Student view is very, very important. This gives you a pseudo view of what the students will experience in your course. You should click this often. And as you'll see, the minute I click into it, a lot has changed. I have lost a lot of access to teacher resources. I have lost my upcoming teacher resources. I have also lost some of the hidden materials that were in the course navigation, which we'll set in the future here. And then any other related breadcrumbs or site-specific materials, anything like that will be no longer available to students. So it's really important that you continue to use that feature. To leave student view, all you need to do is navigate to the very, very bottom right-hand corner of the page and leave your student view. So starting with course navigation, again, we're just going to hit these a little bit here and there as we kind of move about organically. You will see things differently depending on how your course was imported or what exploration you've already done. Of course, home will always remain at the top of your course navigation, and settings will always remain at the bottom. It is everything in between that has some malleability in terms of how you want it shown to students, shown at all, where, and what order. The syllabus tool is one that should remain available at all times. There's more learning on how to edit a syllabus, but for the most part, this is a growing and thinking tool. So as you make changes in your course, parts of your syllabus will actually adapt to reflect those changes. The syllabus is broken up into a content area, and this includes a template that we've imported into this course. Followed by the course summary. Now, the course summary is automatically generated and updates based on as you change events. So if you change due dates, it will update. And if certain things no longer have a due date attached, they will fall to the bottom. So it is kind of a living document, the course summary. So you cannot edit the course summary as a list. You can only edit the items inside of it, and that will be reflected in the course summary as a whole. You can, however, edit the description of a course summary simply by clicking the edit button, which will take you to the rich content editor where you can make your changes. You'll also notice in the syllabus that the course calendar is provided here. Students will also see this course calendar. So keep in mind that as you change things in the course calendar, in the course, or in the assignment itself, a lot of these things will reflect those changes as a whole thinking organism. So the calendar will update, the course summary will update, and anywhere else that you have a feed will also update. The eyeballs that you see in your course navigation indicate what is hidden and what is not. So if there is no eyeball, it is visible to students. If there is an eyeball crossed out, it means that it is no longer visible to students. Quite intuitive there. What is not intuitive about this is that certain items will never be visible to students, such as items. If you have items activated, it does not matter if there's an eyeball or not, it will never be visible to students. That is a teacher resource. Some things will be hidden from students, but able to access. So if you hide assignments, for example, from this, and they cannot click this and see this, they will still be able to access those assignments if you have them linked elsewhere in the course. So it's a lot like hide but make available, like we used in Moodle. Some items are hidden to everybody. So actually the teachers also don't see them. That is usually a reference to LTIs. So it really kind of depends on what you're trying to do in the course and how you want that visibility managed and whether or not you can actually manage the visibility in totality. Most things are hidden from students within the navigation, but not within the course proper. Okay. So back on the homepage, there's a couple of things we can do here. This is how your course opens. This is the first thing that will show to your students, and you have control of what you'd like this layout to be. The general layout is considered a home page. This is like a website page, and our template will come with something that looks very, very similar to this, and you can just simply edit it as a tool. But there are other things you can also do if you'd like something that's a little more systematic. So if you go to choose homepage, you'll see that there's a couple of options for you. The course modules is kind of the more technical layout. This presents all of the activities that need addressing by the student, and they will list here as many as you have in your course. This removes that kind of description that you get with a page. So this becomes a much less verbose way of addressing access to your course materials. More on creating modules and pages and content of modules on in a different webinar. The other options you have are to display flat out the assignments. We don't recommend this because there's no context provided. Or you can actually use your syllabus as a navigation tool, depending on how you write your syllabus. Again, this will provide the course summary down at the bottom, so you'll still have access to that chronological list of assignments. But if your summary is quite long, such as this, it may not be the best choice for a course homepage. So I'm going to go right back to what I was on, which is considered a page, and I've already set that home page, and I will just click save. Some of the other settings you can view here on the right-hand side regarding how your front page view is, you can actually look at your course stream. This is very similar to the activities view, and this will show things that have occurred in the course, things that might need your addressment, so that I have notifications here that there are discussions that I need reading. And a couple of other options here. I can create a new announcement. So this is very similar to going to announcements and creating from here. So there's a couple of different ways to do things. And I can also view my analytics and my notifications. So analytics are how your course is being interacted with. This can be kind of complex depending on how big your course is. So at this time, It's asking me to come back in 24 hours because I have not yet ran a course analytics for this course. But at the time when it does run, you'll have access to what has been accessed, what for how long, what are your your grade overviews. So it is a helpful tool. And then course notifications is pretty similar. It depends on whether you have it enabled in the course, and it'll just be things along the lines of what needs to be addressed. If you have other choices on your course homepage, you might have a to-do list depending on how you've set the settings for the course. These are the things that you need to accomplish as the instructor. This one's telling me that I have a submitted grade, an example assignment that needs to be graded. I also have an upcoming or coming up section, which will show me the next 7 days worth of material. This is, again, attached to the calendar. Depending on if you've been put into groups or any of these other tools too, you might actually see that feed show up on this side of the page. So let's change a couple of settings now that we kind of understand how to navigate our course. I'm actually going to open this in a new tab. The first tab that will show up is the course details tab. You are limited on what you can change on your course, so you'll notice that I cannot change the name or the short code. What I can do is check the status of my course, so I can check if I have made the course public, this one, or excuse me, published. This one has been published. And I can change the course card. So that is the visual that you'll see on the dashboard when you look at a course. And it's very easy to do. You click on the 3-dot menu and you can choose an image, you can remove it. So I will go ahead and just change it to an image that I feel more reflects my course. And there you go, you have changed the updated card. If I update my course details, you should see it reflected on the dashboard. This is communicated to students. So this is not one of those unique settings. This will hit the entire roster globally. A few other things that you might be interested in changing here, and these are some important details. If you are part of a program, some of these details may have already been updated for you, but if you are not, it's good to know what they are and what they do. One thing is you're probably used to adding a description with your Moodle course. Descriptions do not populate unless the course is made public for Canvas, which is not something your CRN-based courses will do, so you can actually skip this. There's no reason to use it. But you'll see an extra option that says more options here. And this will bring down some of the things you may want to address regarding your own course. Again, most of this stuff up here does not require your attention. It is set by the system. And there is very little that you'll be able to do, such as change name, change your term dates, etc. But once you move down past that description and click more options, these are the ones you'll want to address regarding your course settings. Number one is whether you would like to show announcements on the course page. So you'll notice here that I actually have my recent announcements listed first, and I think I have it set up to 2, but you can go up to 15. The more you do, the longer the scroll becomes, so keep that in mind. Your announcements are also available within the course nav if you have them visible, so this might be something you do not wish to see in multiple places. At this point, you could actually uncheck it, and that will move it from the course homepage, and then they will have to access it through clicking the announcements links. Another one you'll want to be sure remains unchecked is to let students create discussion topics. This is important because if students are allowed to create their own discussion topics in the class, it becomes part of the class core content, and that material will actually be duplicated over if you were to copy the course or do a course import using it in a future semester. So the way that Canvas discussions work now is that threads are created by instructors and students respond to those threads. If they're creating their own threads, it then becomes just as if an instructor had done it and becomes part of the core course content. So I recommend leaving this unchecked. The other two that may or may not be checked is to hide totals in the student gradebook. This does not hide their grades, just simply hides their kind of category total. So if you want to clean up your gradebook a little bit, you could do this. But you may also really try to hide the graph distribution from the student, or distribution graphs, excuse me. So at this time, if this is unchecked, students have the ability of seeing how other students are doing in the class. So if I'm in a course and I have allow students to view the distribution graph available and open, that means that students, and I will select a student to view as here, have the ability of seeing how other students are doing in the class. And it's a little hard to find, but it is available. So if they are in their grade books, they see a little check mark, and if they were to click this, it actually provides them the scatter plot, the bar graph, bar graph, that shows how the rest of the course is doing and how they're doing in it in comparative. And if they're clever, they can find kind of ideas of how other students are doing, other specific students are doing in the course. So that may end up being something that you want to change within your course settings by unchecking it. So I'll go back to course settings and make sure that that is, or excuse me, that would be checked. So to hide it, you would need to check it. And then anytime you make any sort of change on any tab, make sure that you're updating the course details. So that will be the first tab. Another one that's going to be very important is the navigation, and this is how you'll manipulate what is visible on this side. There are two sections in course navigation. The course navigation tab, that is what is enabled and what is disabled. Enabled material is available and viewable. There is one caveat. Many of these things are not available yet until there is content added to them. So for example, announcements would not be available until an announcement is made. So if a student is not seeing announcements and you're concerned about that, make sure that you have made an announcement and then it will populate. Announcements as well is one of the things that will populate on the course card right here. So that'll provide context and notifications for the student. Should you want to try adding some of these disabled tools, it is very easy. You select a tool and from its three-dot menu, click Enable, and it will pull up into the visible side. Now you might not see it over here in the course content yet because you absolutely have to click Save to make sure any of these changes are reflected. And now you'll see that I have this additional visible link in my course navigation. If you would like to reorder your course navigation, it is always simple to do, also simple to do. You simply grab and drop where you'd like that link to live in your course navigation, save, and then you can see it reflected. You may also have things you do not want visible. So if you click the three-dot menu of a visible item and disable it, it will move it down into the disabled section, save, and it will be removed from the visible tools. You can also, if you have a really, really long list and dragging is difficult, click Move, and it will help you decide where to move items so that they list differently in the view. Always just remember to click Save. Another note about this is you cannot click the Move tool and move items in and out of visible or non-visible. That's a setting you have to set first. So you have to make sure that you've enabled what you want enabled and disabled what you want to disable before moving them around. Apps, feature options, and integrations is a more advanced tool set, so we will not be going over those. You can check with future webinars on that information. In this area, you'll also see some information on the sidebar. These are some cool tools that you might actually want to explore going forward. Number one is the currently running user list. So this will let you know how many people you have invited into your course based on their role. So right now I have 5 students and 2 teachers. But there's also some things listed on the upper section here that might be interesting to you. One of them is your course statistics. This provides another set of tabs. Again, here's a little bit of an overview of the amount of people in your course and what their access points are. You have access to the types of assignments you have and the number of submissions you've gotten. You have access to a roster and also the last logged in. So I know that a lot of instructors were very interested in what their students were doing and how often they were accessing the course, especially if they're sending emails. So you can check your logged in status before a student asks you why they're, not getting a good grade in class or any of those materials. And then your file storage, which is probably not going to be very applicable to your needs. So I'll jump back into my settings. Your course calendar is also listed here, another access point for your course calendar. So you'll see that I have upcoming materials due. Another one that might be interesting to you, particularly if you're dealing with an imported course or a migrated course, is to validate your links. So if you've never validated the links in your course, this everything below this blue button is hidden, and it'll ask you to run a link validation, and it takes about a minute. And what it will show you afterwards is all the broken material in your class that the system thinks that a student will hit and have a roadblock. So for example, here it's saying there is unpublished content referenced in this resource. So if a student was on this page and tried to click one of these options, particularly that broken link, it'll give them a 404 error. So it's trying to help avoid that problem. So just try your link validation, make your changes, and then restart your link validation again to make sure that it's been reflected and that your navigation and flow is set the way you want it to for your course. Another extremely important feature that you might want to enable in your course is the grading scheme. So if you're used to your students receiving letter grades, or if your students themselves are interested in receiving letter grades, you'll have to click Enable Course Grading Scheme. And the default Canvas grading scheme is the appropriate one to use right now. If you click View, you can actually see that it'll apply the letter grades to the certain ranges. These are the same ranges that we use currently in Moodle. If you do not select this, they will only receive a percentage, depending on some of the other settings, and will not ever see a letter grade. So make sure that you've selected Enable Course Grading Scheme, and then update your course details. And that just about covers everything about making settings changes and the basics of navigating your course tools. If you have any questions, you can email the Online IDs at MSO email, or visit us in an office hours. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us in this webinar, and I hope that you register for future webinars, such as those that cover course communications, importing migrated content, and building assignments, quizzes, and discussions. Thank you.